5-minute book review of Miss Peregrine's Over Peculiar Children. 3, 2, 1, go! From here on out there will be spoilers, so be warned. Summary. 16-year-old Jacob Portman witnessed his close grandfather's death at the hands of a creature that should not exist in the real world.
Jesus,
He explains what he saw, but people think that he's either traumatized or crazy. So his therapist sends him and his father to the island orphanage where his grandfather grew up in order to confirm to him that there is nothing odd about his grandfather's life or death. As happens in these kinds of books, Jacob ultimately finds the opposite true, and bonds with the children with the powers that his grandfather told him about. He also discovers the mystery surrounding his grandfather's death, the fate of innocence in the region, the secrets the children themselves hide, and he discovers who the creatures that killed his grandfather were. The book combines fantasy, some historical fiction, horror, and genuinely creepy photos to create an odd sense of realism in this impossible world. Oh, and also this book does a better job at Photoshop than Photoshop does Photoshop. These were taken before color was invented. Symbolism. Birds and apples are more common forms of symbolism because of the various ways they have been and can be interpreted. The bird is straightforward enough. Peregrine falcons are the fastest animals on the planet, and they have often been compared to shapeshifters because of the way they shape their bodies to accommodate speeds of up to 240 miles per hour. Miss Peregrine is, surprise surprise, an actual shapeshifter. All imberms, female oddities that can take the shape of birds, and have birds as the last names, obviously enough, can manipulate time and space as well, explaining why all the children in the book haven't aged a day. They're symbolic of the children taking flight from their original homes to the refuge of the island, and in the end, their flight from the island at the end of the book. The flight from their only stronghold. The apple is also a little bit more straightforward, as it isn't a reoccurring motif so much as it is a once-occurring symbol in the book that stands out. Emma, a power-kinetic girl that dated Jacob's father for a bit while he was on the island, gives Jacob an apple that ends up crumbling to dust overnight. Apples are considered to be forbidden fruits, and the fact that it ends up crumbling is a warning. Maybe the apple symbolizes the timeline Jacob finds himself in, and what will happen if Jacob leaves the timeline. Or maybe it's Emma herself, considering that it's just a little awkward when you fall in love with your grandfather's ex, even if she's the same physical age as you. On the subject of Emma, trust, identity, and the home are just some of the reoccurring themes that can be applied to her, Jacob, and the rest of the main cast. Identity is expressed in different ways throughout the book. All of the children on the island describe themselves as peculiar. It's fitting, since all of them have supernatural abilities or strange physical attributes that society has shunned and broken. And yet, on the island, it's good to be peculiar, since all the children just want to find someone like them. Initially, it's something that Jacob finds really intriguing, but learning that he's the only person that can see, interact, and control the hologhasts, the same things that killed his grandfather, makes him realize just how important being peculiar actually is to both himself and the people around him. There's also Jacob realizing his identity when compared to his grandfather, who he looks like and shares similar powers to. Usually this isn't a problem, but he begins to wonder if he's accepted, especially by Emma, because of his similarities to Abe and not because he is his own person. The people outside the island, like Jacob's father, struggle with finding themselves as well, showing that this isn't a problem unique to the children of the island. Trust is another big plot point, since Jacob was the only person to trust his grandfather when talking about the island when he grew up. Some of the children did not trust Jacob when they realized that he could communicate with a hologhast, like his grandfather. Emma, however, did trust that he wasn't a friend of the monsters, and lets him lead her into Miss Peregrine's house. All of the children have to trust Jacob when he leads them into the house to fight the monster. Without trust, Jacob would have never learned the truth about his grandfather. Yet, at the beginning, Jacob realizes he can't trust his family, and they all betray his judgment. Jacob's father is betrayed by Abe when he realizes he's not coming home to trick or treat with him, which, for his father, is a crowning moment in realizing that Abe isn't going to be present at all in his life, and Miss Peregrine herself only tells Jacob the good of the island, while hiding away all the bad truths it holds. It conveys a message that trust is important, but it needs to be selective at times, which is a very interesting message. The final theme is home, which should be fairly obvious since it's in the book's title. Technically, the island is an orphanage, but Miss Peregrine makes an effort to make it feel like the children's home. The island is trapped in a repeating time with September 3rd, 1940, and it's debatable whether leaving it is even physically possible at this point, and if anyone would ever even want to leave it. Abe was the only member of his family to escape the Holocaust, where he ended up at the island. Miss Peregrine's house is so run down, the children don't even believe it's haunted. I guess nests are harder to keep than initially thought. None of the children, not even Jacob, felt comfortable in their own homes, so Miss Peregrine created this home for the children and kept them happy. Even then, the children want to see the outside world, but then they'd be in danger, so Miss Peregrine cannot allow them. In the end, Jacob chooses to stay in the time loop because of the security and friends he has found here, and because he hasn't been this happy. Plus, he can't abandon his friends when they need him, even if it means leaving the real worlds behind. My conclusion? Read this book. Just do it. It's chilling, full of twists and turns, and thought-provoking in more ways than just, oh wow, how was this picture taken? It's an experience that will stay with you for a long time. Yes! I reviewed an entire book in under 5 minutes. Ah!